All right, so the next question then will be answered by Terry McCormick first, and it comes from Mark Leland.
Can we talk about the government bailouts for just a moment? There's been a lot of bailouts to a lot of different parts of the working sectors out there. The latest one, $26 billion bailout, was approved earlier this month by Congress. Do you think it's just been a Band-Aid to this situation? Would you have voted for it? And what is the long-term ramifications, do you believe, and how can we turn this around?
The bailouts was just a symptom of the economic downturn because we're not allowing the free market to make adjustments for itself. Because we're not paying attention to what the Federal Reserve does. It's a private corporation. It's not monitored by any individual group. Most countries that have a Federal Reserve type of mechanism in their country have a 0% inflation rate as a responsibility. Ours is not accountable, does not report out. When we don't have a solid monetary system and we don't understand that deviating from free market enterprise and the market economy in general, and we use political answers to solve our problems, such as pushing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac forward and artificially giving away all these subprime mortgages. We have to understand that when they crash, as they did, then we're going to have an empty column in our banks, which is the reason why our banks collapsed. As a legislator, as someone running for government service, we need to understand that business as usual politics has a price. And the price is that we're manipulating the free market. We are using bailouts then in order to cause one poor choice after another. I would not have supported the bailout. I would have stood with free market entrepreneurs and capitalists in the U.S. House,
Terry,
such as
time.
Tom McClintock.
That's time.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Next response from Roger Roth.
Mark, I wouldn't have supported that $26 billion bailout. Here's what happened, folks. The Congress there were unemployed teachers, states all across America had to go and let teachers go to balance their education budgets. And the federal government came in with a bailout, one-time money that they're going to give to the states and to the districts where they're able to go and hire these teachers back. But what it fails to recognize is that 2 years from now in the state, where's that money going to come from? It won't be there in the state of Wisconsin. That bailout money won't be there. And now we have problems. Jerry, you probably covered this on your show. Teachers in the city of Milwaukee. 200 teachers were laid off because the teachers voted for Viagra in their health plan. Now there are some problems in education. And all we did in this $26 billion bailout was to continue the problem further. And now we're going to have to make those tough decisions 2 years from now. And believe me, folks, it's going to be worse then than it is now.
All right, and final response to that question, Reed Ribble.
I think the idea of bailing out private companies is a bad idea. I mean, as a business owner, what a panacea that would be. I could take whatever risk I want, and when I gamble and I roll that dice right, and I win and I get rich. And if I roll the dice wrong, the taxpayer bails me out and I get rich. I think the whole idea of bailouts are bad, and they don't work. Quite frankly, they just don't work. And so let's take a look at General Motors, because a lot of folks on the left would say, but we needed to save all those jobs, and it's systemic. We've got to save all those jobs. Well, here's what would have happened. If they hadn't bailed out General Motors and General Motors went bankrupt, some jobs would have been lost there. But all that does is affect supply. Demand would have stayed constant. And so we would have had one less supplier, Chrysler or Ford, or no, not Chrysler because they got bailout money. Let's talk about Ford because they didn't. Ford would have built more cars and hired more people. And those folks who were laid off at General Motors would have been moved over to Ford to meet that demand. And that's the problem with bailout. It removes moral hazard from a business manager's standpoint. If there's no risk to business owners, they'll take that money. And I think it's bad policy. It creates booms, which is really the disease, by the way. The boom is the disease. The bust that we went through was the cure. And it's a bad idea.